Joel McLeod.
I'm Roland Tanner.
And welcome to a Thursday on a Tuesday episode of the 905 Roundup. So don't worry about your calendars, folks. We're just doing things a little bit differently this week. But the story on our minds are twofold. But the first one is we're going to take a look at the Hamilton Center by-election. It's well, I thought it was going to be a quiet, little sleepy by-election that no one was really going to pay attention to, because I think you are my being politically savvy experts on Ontario politics figured, okay, this is going to be a shoe-in for the Hamilton NDP, picking up Andrea Horwath's previous seat in Hamilton Center and an easy cakewalk. And instead, it's turned into just a nasty, divisive race with we've generated into accusations of anti-Semitism and anti, being, I guess, pro anti-Black racism thrown between those two progressive candidates, Sarah Jama for the NDP and Deirdre Pike for the Ontario Liberal Party. And Roland, you and I were discussing this before we hit record, and we were just shaking our heads at how the F did we get to this point in an Ontario by-election?
Because Brian Lilley, because politics is no longer about a good faith exchange of ideas. It's about a bad faith attempt to throw mud in every direction simultaneously. And just having gone through the comments of the various people involved in this by-election and people not involved, but involved in media commentary, can I just say, all of you go to hell. I live in this riding. I will hopefully be voting on Thursday. And I also say I've known Deirdre Pike for quite a while. I got to know her in when will it have been, 2018, I guess. So I know Deirdre Pike better than the other candidates. But so Brian Lilley wades in first with an accusation that Sarah Jama was anti-Semitic. I went and got a quote from the B'nai B'rith, which is obviously a Jewish group with their media guy who used to be a sports commentator, but now goes around digging up any comment that he can interpret as anti-Semitic to throw at people, and wrote an article about how Sarah Jama was involved with anti-Semitic groups. Not going to get into all that, really. Don't want to. The whole subject is just such a nightmare. Almost the worst part is the extent to which the other parties, I mean, obviously the Conservatives do what the Conservatives do. But Deirdre Pike was actually the one who brought up the anti-Semitism accusations at the debate. And I get why. I get the temptation to paint your opponent, your main opponent, the favorite in the race, as a kind of unhinged radical or whatever. This is really on the basis of Jama's attendance at rallies about pro-Palestinian rallies, which we do live in a democracy. People are allowed to attend rallies. I have a problem with how easy it is to throw the anti-Semitism word around without wanting to downplay whatsoever the importance of challenging anti-Semitism in all its forms. Mm-hmm. I don't want to. I just don't want to get into it because anything, you get accused of anti-Semitism yourself. But
that's like we didn't want to get into. Oh, Sarah Jama said this on this date, and she went to this, because let's be clear here. Both you and I do not think for a second that Sarah Jama is anti-Semitic in the slightest. I don't believe that Deirdre Pike is anti-Semitic in the slightest. Both candidates have had stellar records of community organization, community activism for very marginalized groups in Hamilton. Sarah Jama helping with disability awareness, as well as fighting anti-Black racism and standing up for the the rights of marginalized people across the board. Deirdre Pike, on the other hand, has stood up for the LGBTQ plus community in Hamilton Center to advocate for their concerns, their needs, and their voices. So I don't buy this. Oh,
and also, I mean, just to throw into the mix, I mean, just to make the case that these are both people. I'm sure the Green candidate is too. Even the Conservative candidate has within the police service worked on some things which sound very creditworthy. These are people who have dedicated their lives to trying to help people and causes that they believe are important. So Deirdre Pike raises the anti-Semitism issue at the debate. Sarah Jama hits back with an accusation that Deirdre Pike is racist. It's like, give me, just spare me, please. Deirdre Pike is not a bloody racist.
But
these people have given their whole lives to trying to help people, disadvantaged people. Deirdre Pike became a liberal and left the NDP over the issue of the basic income, of wanting to support people to have this. Can we not throw this mud around? Can we get to talking about issues? And
here's the thing. This is our tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. What's really happening here? So, as it's well known, well documented, Brian Lilley is living and is in an intimate relationship with Doug Ford's director of communications. This is not rumor. This is not innuendo. This is a fact. This is well known, and it was outed by Canadaland a few years ago. And they are still together, as far as I'm aware. And it's also not surprising that Brian Lilley tends to get a lot of inside scoops. He tends to post a lot of stories about Doug Ford's policy, and he's floated out a few ideas that clearly the Doug Ford government wants to see, like what's the public appetite on certain things. I would not put it past that. Can you help out our candidate in Hamilton Center? We could use a win, or at least just stir the pot a bit in this by-election that we really don't have a huge chance of winning. But maybe stir the pot a bit, and let's see about just taking an accusation, a context and a clip that we're going to frame it as Sarah Jama being an anti-Semite and being anti-Israel, etc. And
there is a significant Jewish community in Hamilton Center,
right?
I believe.
But let's put that clip out there, and let's frame it. Write a clip, write an op-ed framing it as evidence of her anti-Israel, anti-Semitism bona fides, if you will, and let it fly. And what happened is it flew. It flew. The left ate itself apart on trying to prove who was the bigger anti-Semite, was the Liberals or the NDP. And in the end, I think both of them ended up wearing mud. And I'm shaking my head here, looking to say, why did you take this bait? Why did you not see what was going on here? Why did you not see that you were being played? Like Sarah Jama is still, my prediction, she's still going to win that seat, not in spite of this. I think it's because it's just a strong NDP riding. There have been a number of other Jewish groups who have their own bona fide problems, in my opinion, with them, but they've come out and support back at her. And it's what surprised me is like, why didn't the conservative candidate chime in? And he's kind of wisely said, "Oh, I'm just going to sit this one out because, hey, when your enemies are eating themselves alive."
Well, the Conservatives have certainly, I think they have waited. The Conservatives, maybe not the candidate, because I don't think they're letting the candidate speak.
No, they're not.
They never.
That's not what they do.
The Conservatives have accused Jama of being anti-Semitic, I believe. I think I'm pretty sure I read that. But it's more predictable and less comment worthy because, of course, they did.
So it's one of those things like where your passions got away from your head, and instead of sitting down, letting your passions pass over in an afternoon and thinking about what you want to say, both Deirdre Pike's campaign and Sarah Jama's campaign decided, well, we're going to go and we have to prove who's right and who's wrong on this. And I'm in the end, I think both of them end up looking foolish, and not very responsible. Because in the end, like you're going to be a backbencher at the legislature. You're not going to have any at the Ontario legislature. Like this ultimately, the real policy resides at the federal level with our foreign affairs department, how this government interacts with that part of the world. You're like, what? I just don't see why would you weigh into it? Why would you weigh into it and risk your the relationship with that community? Because that's exactly what the conservatives want you to do. They want you to damage that relationship with the Jewish community in Hamilton, and they come in and say, look, hey, we never said anything that ridiculous. We're the we're the pro-Israel party, and that's that. And so,
like, when that's the thing, is why is it that, do we really want the politics of the Middle East to be playing a significant role in the politics of Canada? I don't think we do. I mean, we all have our opinions about the politics of the Middle East and the history of the Palestinians and Israel since the Second World War. It's a very difficult and fraught subject, to say the least. When political parties become allied with this ultimately religious war, cultural and religious war, there is a cultural and religious war of the Middle East. How is that helping people? How is that helping the people of Hamilton Centre? I don't know.
It's not. It's a question of.
And what does help the people of Hamilton Centre is not to have a fucking excuse my language, a fairly extreme right-wing government in the pocket of big business that is screwing them over at every possible way. For the record, we let the Tories post an article, and then the progressives punch each other's lights out.
Just to clarify, we are talking about the Ontario PC party, right?
Yeah. What did I say?
Well, you said a far right wing party. I'm like, are you talking about Ontario or Israel or what?
Yeah, we're talking about the Ontario PCs.
Yeah, okay.
Fairly, not extreme, right? But by any standards, by the standards of the PC party, a right-wing version of the PC party that's existed over the last half century, that is more in the pockets of big business than previous iterations of the PC party ever were, and then which is more theocratic and more influenced by religious groups than previous iterations of the PC party were. Yeah,
the entire argument. This entire argument happening right now is just in bad faith. It's meant to you're right. It's meant to distract from the real issues of housing affordability, education, healthcare, the things that right now I'm pretty sure majority of Jewish and Palestinian Canadians, especially those living in Hamilton Centre, are probably pretty much preoccupied with. Economic opportunities in light of the rising inflation, etc. This strikes me as I'm going to come back and say this is a signs of a Tory government that is probably running out of ideas, or knows that their ideas, their policies are widely unpopular with the public. And so what do? Well, in a riding like Hamilton Centre, if you want to make any grounds, do you run on your record? No. So what do? Let's get our poster boy at the Toronto Sun, write an op-ed and try and stir up a hornet's nest and see if the Liberals and the NDP can eat each other alive over who's the more anti-Semitic party. And we come across smelling like roses. And in the end, none of us have talked about the issue of housing affordability, issue of healthcare or anything of that nature that they're open to valid, justified criticism on.
Yeah, I mean, this is a new experience for me to be living in a riding where the incumbent is a progressive party, I mean, actually, the Liberals are currently, the last two elections, they've been in third place. They were in third place in 2018. They did not get back into second place. I think that they were second place previously. So currently the PCs are in second place. I think that flatters them, frankly. I think it just speaks to the weakness of the Liberal Party at the previous two elections. So, I mean, obviously, the Liberals can only get to the promised land of a win in Hamilton Centre if the NDP vote collapses and goes to them. So, I guess I get why, in the rough and tumble of an election, you're looking for whatever can get your opponent. But I mean, the fact is, and I know that Hamilton politics, the NDP hate the Liberals. The Liberals hate the NDP. I mean, who the Liberals hate is kind of less relevant because the NDP is much, much bigger, or was traditionally. I don't know what it is now. I haven't been involved for the last however many years, but the Liberal Party in the past was not strong in the Ontario Liberals in particular, were not strong in Hamilton as a rule, and were further weakened by a bunch of goofballs who were basically on the right wing of the Liberal Party, who kind of seemed insistent on positioning the Liberals as a kind of Tory light party in a city that didn't want any kind of Tories. And I'm not associating Deirdre Pike with any of that, because she's absolutely not in that camp. But so I guess I get it. If you're going to run an election and you've got to beat the NDP to win, you're looking at your thing. But it's just like we need
better.
We desperately need our progressive parties to be smarter about beating the PCs. And it's just depressing when you see it. When you see people who I honestly believe are good people who disagree about details of progressive policy, but who are basically singing from similar song sheets, going after each other and calling each other racist and anti-Semites. I have a problem with it. And it's not, like you say, it's not really about the issues that people in Hamilton Centre should be concerned about.
I don't even think it's about the issues in the Middle East. I mean, the issues in the Middle East are so complex. They're so historic. To chalk it up to a rally here in Hamilton. Oh, that's the crux of the whole thing. I'm sorry. Like it's not. It's like this. The argument requires a bit of nuance and a bit of honesty to just on both sides. I mean, I think you and I had this conversation beforehand. When you wade into it, both sides have valid arguments, and both sides also have done horrific things to the other. That you're kind of like, I'm supposed to pick a side in this.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what I want is ultimately I don't want anyone losing lives. Israeli, Jewish, or Arab, or Palestinian. I don't want any lives lost at all going forward. But I'll be honest, I don't see a path forward. So I'm not going to sit there. And I said, like, we can't sit there and say, oh, this side's clearly to blame, that side's clearly to blame. It's just too messy. It's become such of a mess. And I say to like the progressive parties, why take the bait to weigh in on this? And especially when you have nothing to gain by it.
Well, and
everything to lose. Okay.
That there is an argument that's been made, and I'm saying an argument that's been made, not being made by me. I'm making no argument whatsoever about any of this. There's an argument made that a certain type of support for the Palestinian cause equates to anti-Semitism. I'm not saying that's right, that's wrong, but there's anti-Semitism which we associate with the Holocaust, with a clearly race-based belief, or in a whole bunch of tropes about Jewish people, about, we know what they are. I'm not even going to repeat them. And then there are political causes which are also, some say, anti-Semitic because of what they say about the existence of the state of Israel and how that state should change in future to make it more agreeable with their point of view. What we can say is there's an awful big grey area between what some might say is a traditional perception of anti-Semitism and that kind of definition of anti-Semitism. They're rather different. So to throw around this word is very, in a provincial election where these issues are not within the remit of anybody who's going to be elected, it is inflammatory and it's dangerous, and it's never going to be a fair debate for anybody involved. It's again, I don't want to get into the weeds of this freaking debate, but no one's claiming Sarah Jama is repeating those kind of horrific tropes and blood libel and all the rest of it, all those things that
right.
It's about that much more modern and nuanced definition of the boycott, divest, and
the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement.
Sanctions movement, and a debate which just does seem like a debate that is not clear to me on either side about whether that counts as anti-Semitism. And what we do know is that this is not central to Sarah Jama's political career. She's a disability activist and an activist for issues of race and black and has been involved with the defund the police movement and things like this. And you could get into those issues, which are actually provincial responsibilities, and find quotes from her about the police, which maybe would be well worth discussing in this election. I'm not going to get into that either right now, but other people maybe should. And that would be a matter that she would actually be voting on as MPP in the coming election. Whether there's a difference between defund the police and, to use a phrase that she has used, abolish the police, which is rather different. Anyway, all we can agree on is that this is so disappointing. It's so destructive to the aims of progressive politics and people who are basically trying to create a better world, throwing mud at each other as if they're monsters. I don't get it. I don't see it helps.
No.
It's not going to change the result in this election, I suspect.
We need to be better and honestly start treating ourselves a little bit. The left needs to treat ourselves with a little bit more respect and a little bit more responsibility, because Lord knows the right isn't going to do it going forward. So let's put a break in the podcast on this one, and we'll come back with more 905er. And we are back. So switching from Hamilton, we thought we'd zoom up to Brampton, but I think this is actually going to take a bit more of a look at around the 905 in general. But basically, our friends over at the Pointer website, which focuses mostly on Peel News, are pointing out that basically Hamilton City Council is long story short, allocating nothing, if not virtually nothing.
Sorry, Brampton.
I'm sorry, Brampton. My bad. But they're allocating, I'm going to say nothing or virtually nothing in their operating budget towards climate change mitigation or just whatever that might look. And they take the Brampton City Council to task on it. But this is something you and I kind of have touched upon quite a bit, in that it's not just a Brampton issue. There seems to be a trend happening along many municipal governments, declaring climate change emergencies, or climate change is a top issue for them to address their budgets, yet doing nothing to actually do anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, it is The pointer does what many media organizations that cover single cities do, which is tend to see their own city as the worst example of everything. And I'm not saying that Brampton isn't a very good example of a city not doing anything on climate, not doing very much on climate. The so-called the climate emergency declarations that basically happened everywhere across the province in about 2018-ish or thereabouts, were they happened everywhere. They were largely symbolic everywhere. They came with no real spending changes anywhere. Now, Brampton has, sorry, not Brampton, the Pointer has made the point, or they've done research into the spending in Mississauga and the region of Peel. And they say that their analysis suggests that more than half of the entire capital budget of Mississauga is dedicated to climate mitigation or adaptation projects. If that's the case, that's fantastic, and well done, Mississauga. And the region of Peel has dedicated 40 million in 2023 to the climate emergency. It should be said that 40 million in the perspective of the region of Peel is not a whole lot of money. The region of Halton, if I remember rightly, allocated something close to $1 billion on a single bridge a few years back. I should check my facts on that, but it sticks like in my brain. It's like, how much for one bridge? And okay, it was a big bridge, but still. So 40 million compared with $1 billion for a bridge, not a lot. Still, it's something. But what we're very aware of is that these climate emergency declarations were made everywhere. They were window dressing pretty much everywhere, and they how you can have a climate emergency. You can declare that something is an emergency and then simultaneously say that it doesn't actually need any money to fix it. I do not know.
Well, a couple notes on that. One, we recently had on, I'm gonna say last episode, Stella Ambler of Municipal Watch. This was something that she hinted at. Her focus was on the west coast of Vancouver, but I'm not going to comment on that because I don't have the information. But I think her sentiment was right. Was that these municipalities declaring a climate emergency? Okay, that's good, but then there's no sensible plan. Well, what does that mean? And in my mind, that thinks if it's a climate emergency, the scope of what you've just said means you might have to start with a fundamental rethinking of what your budget priorities are. Now, you and I have said, well, that might mean you have to readdress your zoning bylaws. How are you going to build so that you need more density? If you declare that there's a climate emergency in your municipality, that means you're going to need more density, which means you're going to need more high rises or that middle level mixed density usage. That comes to the whole thing. If you don't have the permission from the province to do that, then you need to go pick a fight. Secondly, I always say, well, that might mean you might need to start spending more money on municipal facility upgrades to make sure that they are not bleeding energy, so that they're LEED compliant, that kind of thing. Maybe you want to invest in solar panels to bring your municipal infrastructure maybe as off the grid as possible. These are just things I'm spitballing here. But is it cheap? No. But here's the thing, people, you just declared a climate emergency. So walk the walk. That there's a consequence to doing that. If you don't want to declare a climate emergency, that's fine too. Because maybe you say, well, we don't have the budget to do these things. And I guess what we come down to is kind of what Stella was, I'm going to say, be polite, Ms. Ambler was saying about this stuff, is if you're going to say it, like you have to back it up or don't. This is all just window dressing. And I think my worry is that when you say, oh, it's we declared a climate emergency. Well, what does that mean? I mean, could it mean that you're now I can spend money on whatever I want? Say it's covered underneath our climate emergency declaration, so we're going to buy this new doodad to go in the municipal budget. Okay, but does it do anything? Like, does it meet that criteria? No, but it sounds really cool. I get a photo with it on the front page of the paper. So
Yeah, and I want to sort of acknowledge the way I believe this kind of thing is meant to work, and how it could have an effect with a zero budget from the city. And a couple of years ago, I was involved in a bidding process in my sort of professional life, bidding process for um, sort of something to do with a council in London, England. One of the many London boroughs. London is the opposite of Toronto, which has one council. It has about 50 or 25 or something. I can't remember how many it is, but anyway, a bunch. And that bidding process was incredibly rigorous, and it set out very clear requirements for the people bidding on, you, as part of your bid, you have to explain how you're going to mitigate and reduce your carbon footprint. How many electric vehicles, if you've got staff running around town digging holes, are those electric vehicles? How new are they? When were they replaced? What's their efficiency level? How are you going to make sure that your staff get to work? They're not driving all the time. Are they using public transit? Things really very, very rigorous and extensive requirements. It was a massive part of the process to meet those requirements. I don't know that my feeling is nothing like as rigorous happens here. Nothing remotely as rigorous happens here, and that we've seen it with the Vision Zero statements. We've seen it in, repeatedly. The buzzwords get picked up as by councils and by council staff alike as a way of saying, look, we're doing something amazing, climate emergency, woohoo. And that's really the end of the conversation. Now, maybe I'm being a little bit unfair. I mean, definitely,
no,
the idea is that those statements can be a way to, now that you've said there's a climate emergency, that the staff, when they do something, have to have that in their brain. Okay, how is this addressing the climate emergency? And have to kind of include that in the conversation. My feeling is with how I've watched, okay, I'm going to use Burlington as an example just because that's the one I watched over the years, where various buzzwords came along, were used in city documents for a year or two, and then silently drifted away. Citizen engagement was a good one. I pick at random, not random at all.
Not random. Burlington did declare a climate emergency, and this is something you and I have touched upon numerous times. Burlington said, "Oh, there's a climate emergency. We're going to change the way we do things in Burlington." And we thought, "Oh, that's interesting." And then nothing happened. We've called out the mayor a bit on this. Like, well, where is the push to change zoning bylaws? Where's the push for greater density? Where's the push for better transit? And everything's just kind of been shuffled off to the side. I don't get the sense that it's an urgency anymore. Nobody talks about climate emergency at the city council
to
anymore.
be fair to the mayor, I will say, to be fair to all mayors, I will say that they are facing every decision they ever make. They face massive institutional inertia against change. And that is particularly true in things like roads, transit, development. Okay, we've got a climate emergency. What are you going to do about it? I mean, the institution of municipal government in Ontario will slow down, delay, block. And this isn't an individual thing. It's how city halls work. It's just how they work. I think in the UK, councils have more power, frankly, to actually do what they say they're going to do. It's a stronger mayor system. The councillors are actually in political parties, and that can be a good thing or a bad thing or otherwise, but it means they have a bit more oomph behind them. The councillors are allowed to organize and talk about policies and agendas and things, which councillors in Ontario are not actually allowed to do. Mm-hmm. So as always, it comes back to this issue of Ontario municipalities are weak, the councils are weak, and the so-called strong mayor system that Doug Ford has brought in changes that not one single iota, by the way. And so all the best intentions in the world. And I dare say the people who declare climate emergencies and Vision Zero and all those other things had the best intentions in the world, and it goes nowhere. And it's just, again, it's another reason why people are so disenchanted and fed up and bored with politics. It's like, what's the point?
Right.
It all grinds to a halt.
And I guess that's my. I mean, but there comes a time when you have to fight for your right. To coin the Beastie Boys, but that's the thing is that, but all these municipalities are falling at the, what was it, 6 years ago? They were climbing over each other, fighting over each other to declare that they were going to be declaring a climate emergency within their little corner of the world. And it was like, oh wow, that's really something. That's a really progressive viewpoint.
That can happen quickly because the staff love a buzzword too. They
Right,
love
yeah,
a
they do.
declaration of
It
we're
sounds,
going to do something amazing. They love,
but
totally on board with that, as long as we don't actually have to do anything to make it
and I guess
happen.
that's the thing is that, what happened to all those mayors with big ambitions and the councillors with big ambitions, and at some point you kind of got to rock the boat and say, damn it, give us the powers to do this, give us the, allow us to redesign our cities so that we can allow some greater, that mixed middle use density, so that it's not just 40-story condo towers or sprawl. Where's that option in the middle to help us meet this target? How can we develop our cities so that we have better transit systems? We can afford to buy the extra busing or whatnot so that we can ensure people can get around more easily.
I mean, where's the firebrand Marianne Mead Ward, who before she was elected, in fact, the week after she was elected, was talking about merging the taking transit in Halton to the Halton region, rather than having these ridiculous Burlington Transit, Oakville Transit, Milton. Does Milton even have transit? I don't even know. The ridiculous state of affairs where the most basic transit in our municipalities is bloody awful, for want of a better word. Unless you live in somewhere big enough like Hamilton or Toronto, where the urban area is large enough to make it kind of viable,
Well, no, when the provincial and federal governments will chip in millions and billions of dollars to either build an LRT or to build an Ontario line through the city. And maybe that's the case. Maybe municipalities are just not equipped at all to do a squat on this. In which case, again, if you want to make your community a better place, pick a fight. You're going to have to go pick a fight with your provincial and federal counterparts and say, give us the money to do this. Give us the money and the ability to make the changes. We'll do it for you. Or just allow us to upgrade our facility. Give us infrastructure money to just upgrade all the hockey arenas and the parks that we have, to plant more trees, to put solar panels on the roofs, to fix the cracks in the foundation, so to speak. But it's all performative.
The cities, again, it comes back to this thing of like, why aren't the cities able to put serious pressure on the province? And you've seen it already with Andrea Horwath. I'm not having to go at Andrea Horwath. I'm just using her as an example of this process. But we've seen it within days of her being elected. She's basically playing the let's not upset Doug Ford game that they all play. She's doing what they all do. There's a reason why they do it, because it makes sense. It's because, well, everything, basically your job as mayor is to go and supplicate to the province and say, please, sir, can we have some more? And hope that, the province shows some benevolence and gives you what you want. But that's also the source of their complete weakness and ineffectuality. And it's like, I just wish, and we've seen recently Rob Burton in Oakville going along to that huge fundraiser and paying his $1,500 or whatever to attend. No doubt out of his personal, well, no, I won't even say that, but still, someone's paid for his ticket.
He
apparently him, I hope.
Well, he did. The town did not. It was vouched that the town said it was not out of public coffers, which is good. But I agree. Like, Rob Burton, all of a sudden, I mean, I remember Rob Burton was thought of as, his name was being touted running for the Liberals at one point back in the day. So it's amazing to see him suddenly shift gears because it's the opportune moment to go and hang out with a bunch of Tories at a $1,500 plate dinner. Same as what happened to the Andrew Horvath, who was saying, "Oh, we need to stop Doug Ford dead in his tracks because he's the worst thing that could possibly happen to Ontario." And all of a sudden now, I'm just going to stay mum on every issue that affects Hamilton, zoning, environment, business development, all that stuff. We're just going to stay mum on it because, what's she hoping for? That also one day Doug Ford's going to come by with a huge check and say, "Here, Andrea, all your woes are answered. Go nuts," just before the next municipal election. Maybe he will, probably will. But that's just the most cynical of plays in politics. And quite frankly, that's why you're right. That's why nothing gets done, because we sit there and let's wait around for 3 or 4 years.
It's a faint hope. I mean, it's clearly, I keep on saying, it's like municipalities, if they were truly had an organized and orchestrated voice, could exert real power over the province. But they never want to. I mean, it seems laughable now that basically the kind of mud thrown at Andrea Horvath during the municipal election was, Hamilton's going to be screwed if Andrea wins because of the hatred between. It's like, it's not how it works. Whoever won would have been exactly the same, and it's you go along with your cap out and say, please.
Yeah, but it's a different style. If you can go with your cap out, and then once you don't get what you want, there are ways to pick a fight. And I don't want to sound going chaos in our politics, but at some point you do have to stand up and say, this doesn't work. And the fact is, if you're a mayor of Hamilton size or any size city in the 905, you can get stuff done. And I'm going to, as a perfect example of that, if you remember back during the pandemic, do you remember the letter that the Halton mayors wrote to Doug Ford back when the lockdowns were first happening? They were saying, "Hey, can you let Halton know, because our numbers are good. Let us out. We're being a good boys and girls." Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, Doug came out with the now infamous color-coded scale of openness. That was because those Halton mayors wrote a letter and said, "We've had enough. Change the rules for us," and Doug did. So,
yeah, no, it's a good point. They did. I didn't always agree with what they were doing, but during COVID, the mayors did use their collective voice to significant effect with the province. That was very unusual. I'm not familiar with that happening before, and it hasn't happened since. So,
but it happened and it worked. But whether you agree or disagree with that outcome, it worked. So again, coming back to the idea of this climate change declarations, that I know you're going to need big money to make the necessary changes. You're going to need the powers to make the policy changes to affect this. And I'm just wondering, where's that drive? Where's that collective push to say, give us the powers to allow the municipalities to make the changes that they need to follow through on this climate change proclamation, this declaration? I mean, the province is going to say no, but say, why not? Don't you agree that there's a climate change emergency?
Yeah, well, I don't think the PCs do, overtly or tacitly.
Maybe not, but sometimes you have to make them. You have to say, you got to put this, pen to paper and draw a line in the sand. There comes a time when you either shit or get off the pot. And sometimes, if you're going to make a declaration, you got to stand by it. And it's sad to see that a lot of the 905 mayors are incredibly weak. They're coming out as spineless, I guess, is what I'm going to
I was going to say they come out as spineless because they're spineless, because the job does not come with a spine. It's been designed to be a spine-free zone, and becomes more lacking in spine every year. Again, I'll come back to Marianne Mead Ward, because whatever you think of Marianne Mead Ward as basically Burlington's chief of the loyal opposition or whatever for about a decade, God knows she was not afraid to state what she thought. And now she's another quiet, well-behaved mayor of a municipality, it seems. And I get that there's a huge motivation to be like that.
What's the saying about well-behaved women rarely make history?
With not being like that. There's a better way to put it.
What's the saying? Well-behaved women rarely make history.
Well, that's Marianne's favorite quote, I do believe. Yeah, I agree with it. It's a fantastic quote, and Marianne was certainly not well behaved during her career prior to becoming mayor. I would like to see a few mayors, Andrea Horwath, Marianne Mead Ward, Rob Burton, whoever, just really saying, this is not good enough. This needs to change. And then there were various declarations back in 2018-ish about the need for change to LPAT, things like that. Since then, silence, nothing. There was a unanimous declaration by every single regional councillor. Nothing followed it. So again, enough with the declarations. Well, if you're going to make a declaration, that has to be the first part of the campaign, not the campaign in totality. And that goes for declarations about the LPAT or...
That'd be an easy and very small way to really screw over. Ban signs, ban political signs, or make every person who wants to put up a sign during the election have to get a permit from City Hall first.
You could run into the Constitution on that one, I believe.
No. Or you just I think because there was a gentleman in Burlington who put up a sign declaring his statement on what he wanted. It was a very big, bold statement, and the city said you have to take it down. It doesn't fit within our allotted parameters. I say change the parameters from the standard one, and just say everyone, okay, if you want to put up a sign, just have to get a permit. Same as like you have to, if you want to protest, you have to get a permit from City Hall. So why not just tell everyone, if you want to put up a sign on your front lawn, you need to get a permit for every sign. Everyone will just say, I'm not putting up a sign this year because I just don't want the hassle. Okay.
I think, well, yeah, maybe they'll eventually die out on their own because there'll be so few people willing to take part in the political process. I'd like to see the municipalities taking on some bigger issues than that, I have to say. I mean, yeah, all signs are dumb, right? Don't get me wrong.
No, but but
planning, development,
follow it through. Then you can play politics in your own way. You can decide how you can back whoever you want. I'm playing chess here in my head, rolling with.
Playing three-dimensional chess, and I'm playing checkers.
Yeah. If anybody wants to know my whole theory on how I would play that out, email me, joel.mcleod@905er.ca, and I'll tell you my entire strategy if I was a mayor and how to get my way.
I just pick up the checkers pieces and throw them at people. That's my kind of politics.
That could work. All right. Not that we're advocating that. Don't throw.
Don't just throw checkers pieces, people. No. Childish.
Throw insults. Okay, folks, that's it for this week. Thanks very much. We'll see you on Thursday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.